Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a wood grain patterned soap. This has been probably my most favorite technique of all the ones that I've done, so I figure why not show you how I do this. And granted, obviously I didn't make this up, so I found it from another series of tutorials, so I couldn't really direct you in any one specific direction, but I can link some down below that I think might be helpful for you. But anyway, right now I'm just doing a voiceover, obviously. So while I was making this, I made up the colors, and I give you the ratios at the end, but I have a slate blue, black, white, and gold, and my fragrance oil is Moroccan mint. So in that beaker, there was about an ounce. Because this recipe is only about 2 pounds of soap. It's not that much. So right now I'm pouring in my liquid oils into my melted hard oils. And typically what happens is when I pour the liquid oils into the melted hard oils, it takes the temperature down pretty drastically. And here I'm testing it, and you can catch the temperature really quick before I flip it over and think I'm showing it to the camera, but it's cut off. So just the way I have my setup here, I can't really see my video. I'm just kind of, winging it, I guess. But anyway, so this fragrance oil, Moroccan mint, is one of my also favorites. It behaves so well in soap, and it's perfect for this technique. So if you saw me, I just poured it right into my oils before even adding the lye. So I have no doubt in my mind that it'll be fine. And I like to do this for fragrances that behave well. Otherwise, I dropped my cap in there. And it was just oil, so it's no big deal. But anyway, I like to pour my fragrance oil in there. Because otherwise sometimes I forget to put my fragrance in there. But that's my lye solution going in, and I poured it down my spatula to keep from splashing. And at this point, I like to kind of stir it around a little bit first to kind of see how things are kind of shaping up, and then I'll hit it with the stick blender. But again, like I said, this fragrance oil works really well. I'm testing the temperature again. It's about 79 degrees if you happen to catch it. But I'm going to speed this up a little bit so you don't have to sit there and watch me mix it. But for this particular recipe, or not recipe, but this technique, you want the batter to be pretty thin. So usually I just take it to right at mix. So like as soon as it's emulsed, I stop mixing because I don't want it to go too far. So you see how fluid that is. I wouldn't even call it trace. I would just call it emulsed. Here's my slate blue. I separated the batter into 40% of the batter being the slate blue color, and I have it calculated in my notebook, and I can't remember how many ounces that was, but it was about a 44-ounce recipe in total, so that's oils and lye. So 44 times 40%. And then my black color was 30%. And then the white, which you'll see here soon. I think the gold is first, but anyway, the white is 20% and the gold is 10%. So basically what I'm trying to achieve with this is I have like a base color of blue with black. So those are my dominant colors, with some like white and gold kind of peppered in there. This is King Tut Gold Mica from Mad Micas. I love this color. I usually use it as an oil swirl, but this time I'm actually coloring the batter with it. And this is White Champagne Mica, and some of these colors I bought a while back and they're named different things now, but if I can find it again, I'll link it in the description so that you can find it as well. But mixing them up really well. I started with the black and mix that one first before mixing the slate, because there's black in my slate anyway, and I wanted this pure black, so I didn't want to get any blue in it. Not that it would make a huge difference, but that's just my reasoning for doing this. Okay, so now that I have all my colors mixed up, it's time to set up my pour pitcher, which to reduce dishes, I just used the one that I had my liquid oils in. So the trick is to kind of have like your pouring pitcher split in two in a sense. So I'm pouring black on one side, slate on the other. And then for the first pass, I just kind of switch hands and then pour black on the one side and slate on the other. So you're kind of just, and you want to pour it down the wall too so that it's not like dunking in there. You kind of want to visibly see layers, if that makes sense. But yeah, so now the white is going in, and I just go ahead and put it on both sides. And depending on how you want the overall look of it, you just, well, if you want less of one color, you know, ultimately just weigh out less. And to get on the get-go, if you just want like a pop of color, in this case, the gold is kind of a pop of color, but you'll see in the end result, it just kind of, you can see it pretty well. But yeah, so anyway, I did that. And now I'm tilting my mold against a towel so that it's kind of at an angle. And then you just pour, you start from one side and just pour down the side. It looks kind of like a muddled mess right now, but as you go, you'll see how nice this looks. And then occasionally, as you're swiping back and forth, you want to put in a little knot. So I just kind of jiggle it there, do another jiggle. And it's up to you. It's really random. There's no formula to when you put in your little knots. I just kind of do it based on, I don't know, proportions. So like if I see I haven't done a knot in a while, I'll just kind of throw it in there. But you also want to, you don't want to do all knots. So it's good to just go back and forth and make lines. But in this particular batch, I made quite a few knots just because I felt like in the past I didn't make enough. So yeah, and then it's just back and forth. Now there's another technique that's very similar to this, and it's cut the same way, and it's just, you know, but it's also called thin lines. So rather than putting the knots in there, you just go back and forth, back and forth and back and forth. And when you cut it, you just have very thin lines across your soap. And again, just the difference is the fact that you're adding the knots to make it look like wood. So as my pitcher gets low again, I just start the process of filling my pour pitcher the way that I had showed you before. And again, there's no formula to this. I'm just randomly putting colors in there however I just feel like it, or whatever pitcher is closest to me, just as long as you're splitting your pouring pitcher in two relatively evenly, because as it's pouring out, it's going to take batter from both sides and make that kind of thin line. And see how well this fragrance oil is behaving. It's still so fluid and easy to work with. And you can see me scraping out. I prefer to scrape out practically every drop I can get. It really helps with the cleanup afterwards. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is just scrape every little last drop of the white out. And you'll see me do it for the other colors too. So here's gold, and I'm going to scrape it out as much as I can. And I apologize that my arm gets in the way. The way I have my camera set up is overhead, and it's zoomed in really far, so you get a nice view of my arms sometimes. But yeah, so this is going to be the last bit of pour pitcher, pouring, because I'm putting all the colors in and finishing that up. But as far as cleanup's concerned, if I know it's like I'm not your mom or anything like that, but in order to clean up, the best way, in my opinion, is to, again, get as much as you can out as possible. If your batter is running fast, just pour the remaining in a separate mold, or like a single mold or something like that, just to get it done. But then you wipe out your stuff first with some paper towels or a rag or whatever you want to do, and then wash out your pitchers. I feel like it's less mess. I don't know. But anyway, back to the soap. You can see that the lines are getting more defined. And the reason that is because the soap, even though it's still very thin, it is getting thicker. So they're not muddling together as much. So I feel like this is the perfect texture for this technique. Granted, with fragrance oils, if you do like unscented, I mean, no problem. But with fragrance oils, it's always kind of a crapshoot to know how far you should take your stick blending before you stop. But anyway, so it behaved really well, and I'm just pouring the rest of what I have in here into separate molds. So I have like a cute little owl mold, and I still had some extra batter, so I'm gonna pour it into a kind of like a bee mold, I guess. That's what I have. If I pull it out anytime now. There we go. But I love these little soaps. They're great for like little giveaways, or we use nothing but my soap in the house, so if my husband needs some soap, he's got it. We've got so much soap in this house. It's unreal. But I like to do in the mold hot process. So I have this old crock pot, and now let me stress old. I don't use food in this. You can tell it's, not great, but it's like the perfect size for my little 2-pound mold. I put it on low for about 15 minutes, and then I turn it off. So at this point I had already had it off. But here's the next day. It hardened up perfectly in that little crock pot. And it looks so lovely. And this is the most satisfying part for me, just that schlup sound as it comes out of the mold. And then the lines are perfect, and you can see like little like crevices on certain surfaces, and all that is like the heating of the soap in the crock pot. I don't want to say it boiled, but it creates these bubbles, and I don't slap it down. So anyway, this is the most important part of the whole thing, is how to cut this, because you don't cut it in the traditional way. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring the loaf in the width that I want it to be. So I'm going to cut off the end at, these little marks here. And then I'm going to measure 2.5 inches across. And I'll get, 3 hunks out of that. So basically this downward view that you're looking at is going to be the front face of the soap. See how it looks kind of weird when you just cut it traditionally? It doesn't look like wood grain. I mean, it's a cool looking soap. It's probably more like a one pot wonder or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, so this little miter box that I have, each one of those fingers is like 1 inch. But when I measure it, I like to put my little marking right in the middle, and then you have to make sure that your cutter is lined up with each finger so that it like goes, it's not crooked. But now this is important too. So once you cut them like that, I flip it on its side and I cut it this way. So like I said, each finger is about 1 inch. So that gives you 1 inch width soap. And I don't do a great job of showing this, but you'll see in the picture in the end. I put it on there. You see a nice knot there. And there's like a glare on the soap for some reason. I don't know why. So out of this batch, I got 6 bars and a couple of samples. And I'll trim up the edges and stuff too. And you'll see that in the picture. But yeah, there they are. Looking good. And here's my final picture that I post. And here's the recipe for the colors if you want to do a ratio for slate blue, and then the batter ratio for the different colors too, and the fragrance there. So I have it in here for you to pause and write down if you want, or else I'll write it in the description for you. But anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see you soon.